What's in the box?
Coming up next on Unboxing. Unboxing, the show where we open the box so you don't have to. This is the brand new Intex 3,000 gallon per hour sand filter pump combo unit for 2019. This model came out only about 2.5 weeks ago. There may be still some of the 2018 models for sale, but if you are shopping for one, you want to make sure you get this one. Beyond the color scheme changes on it, the major difference is the addition of a digital timer, which replaces the mechanical timer on the outgoing model. So let's get this thing unboxed and have a look at it. The biggest feature difference between the 2018 and 2019 model is the digital timer, which is similar to the unit that's on the Saltwater System, so no more mechanical timer. There's also a little bit of different shape on the plastic housing. The motor specs and everything remains the same at 3,000 gallons per hour or 2,500 system flow gallon per hour. As you can see in this quick mock-up, I've simply placed the new tank near the old one, and you can see how the color graphics match almost perfectly with the saltwater generator. However, if you look closely, you can actually see that the tank has a slightly different shape and is a slightly different plastic mold than the original, so there is a little bit of redesign on it as well. This is a fantastic system that comes with everything you need, including all interconnecting hoses to your pool. Note that this uses the Intex 1.5-inch hoses, so if you are using an Intex pool with a smaller hose set, you may need additional adapters for it. We actually won't be needing these because we are replacing an existing installation. The short piece is going to be used to connect the pump to the 6-way valve that goes on top. We're going to put that aside for now, and one other item it also includes is a jet, just in case your pool doesn't have the appropriate size jet. They give you one right here. It has a little adjustable nozzle, and I'll tell you right up front, this nozzle is a joke, and it doesn't work the way it is, but don't worry about that, because when you see my other videos, I've got an easy way to make this into any kind of jet nozzle that you like. We won't be needing this either because I've already got it set up on the pool. So right now we're going to focus just on the motor, and the first thing you need to do to put this thing together is attach the skimmer basket assembly up front. So we can leave that together for now. We won't be doing the valve just yet. We'll be doing that when we do the actual install by the pool. I just wanted to get this thing set up right here for you. There's two boxes that come with it. One is going to have the 6-way valve. We can go ahead and open that right now. And the valve is one piece, everything is assembled. Has a little bit of protective covering there. And basically the positions that you have on the valve, you're going to have recirculate, rinse, filter mode, waste mode, and the closed, and of course backwash. I'll show you that in detail when we get it set up, but this is all one unit. Pressure gauge, everything is all set to go, so we can put this aside for now. The other box, this is going to contain the pre-filter assembly. We can go ahead and put that together. And once again, that's also already assembled. On the top of here, there's a rubber fitting and there's a piece of tape. What you want to do is leave that alone and leave that piece of tape. Even if you're tempted to peel them off, it's a good idea just to leave that piece so it doesn't flap off of there. Now there's also a piece inside of here which you need to remove. And that's going to be a fitting that, well, I'll figure out where this goes in a minute. I know I've seen this before. Alright. Oh, it's already obvious to me. So this just goes right up here to the front of the unit and attaches like so and locks into place. And this is a retainer nut. I've put this unit together a lot of times before. Fantastic unit, very reliable. In fact, the only reason I'm replacing it on the pool, because the fish pond motor I forgot to winterize, and it developed a crack on the side of the motor, or rather the intake housing, right here. And I tried to use some JB Weld to fix it up, but that was not the fault of the unit, that was my fault for forgetting to winterize it. I winterized the pool, but not the pond last year. So I'm replacing this for the pool, and the pond is getting the old motor from the old unit, if that makes sense. And once this is done, that's pretty much it. And that will just go right onto there. We'll worry about tightening that when we get to it. This is going to be your intake from your return lines, and then goes through. There'll be a connecting piece to the valve, and then from the valve on top, it will lead out to either back to your pool for the pool jet, or in my case, it's going to first go to the salt treatment unit that will add chlorine into it, chlorine gas from the salt, and then it goes returning to the pool. So we're going to go ahead and set this up for realsies. See you in a second. The old equipment is out of the way, and we're ready to put the new unit in. Installation won't take long at all. Note that the installation surface must be on some kind of stone base and leveled, because you're looking at about 120 pounds of filter media going into it, as well as the weight of the unit itself, plus the water that's in that tank. It's very, very heavy, and if you just put this in the regular grass, it's definitely going to sink on you, and you do not want that. So here we go. Your first step is to place the plastic ring down, and this will provide the base for the sand filter unit. In my case, the outlines of the original unit are still there, so I'm 100% that's where it needs to go. In your case, before the unit gets filled up, you're going to want to move around and position it exactly right before you put in that filter media, and then it becomes way too heavy to move, and moving it at that point might even cause damage. On to the next step. Next, place the completed motor unit right onto the tabs, and it will lock together. There are 2 screw holes there, so if you're permanently mounting it to a base, you can do that, but I can assure you it's not necessary. When this thing is loaded, it's not going anywhere. Next, place the tank and position it exactly where you want that little drain valve at the bottom to be. In my case, I want it straight out. Your situation may differ, but be sure that's set exactly where you want it before you start filling it up. This piece here is meant strictly to provide alignment for the actual jet washer that's on the inside of this thing. I don't know if that's the actual name for that, but that's what we're calling it. If you remove it while filling, this thing can go all over the place, causing it to not to line up with the valve. So be sure to leave this on while you're filling it. And there are also marks there for min and max. Do not exceed the maximum line. It's okay to be a little bit below the minimum and have less material, but think of it like engine and transmission oil. Never go above that line. Also, don't drop it. The media that I'm going to be using is a glass media instead of sand. Now, sand works perfectly well, and it's going to create a very good result with it, but this gives you a little bit of an extra edge. What this is ground glass that filters down to 5 microns instead of 30. So it's a much finer filtration than sand does, And actually I think it pays for itself in the fact that you never have to actually throw it out and replace it. You just need to add to it maybe once a year, just a little bit, for the normal loss from backwash. Now if you're filling yours up for the first time with sand, this is what it would look like. And what you want to do is not pour it into the holes, but rather use that top piece, which keeps it out of the flow tube, as a distribution point. And as you can see, the sand is spreading more or less evenly into the filter. Also, periodically, you can take a hose, put it on a gentle setting, wash the sand from there, and work the sand in a little bit. Start adding water to it as you go. I've added more water so that all the sand is immersed in it, and now we're going to approach the fill line. If this was glass, you would add about 100 pounds of glass. Because we're using sand, we're adding the full 120 right to the max line. For the final step, just gently rinse off the sand off the top. And fill the remainder of the filter with water. The water spreading it out, I can see you can add just a little bit more. And that should do it. Just a hair under the line. And that's good enough. At this point, you want to basically keep the hose in until the entire tank fills with water. At which point you can remove the guide ring. This is now in place and it's perfectly centered, ready to accept the 6-way valve head. Now, since this is the first time we filled this with new sand, what you'll need to do before using it is remove the drain cap, attach your backwash hose that runs out to the yard somewhere where you can send water. Then you're going to move the valve into the backwash position, turn on the pump, and what you want to do is give it a good backwash. Ideally the bubble here should show clear when everything is all done. On this tank it's a little different. This is the fish pond tank. I'm just demonstrating the sand portion and the startup portion of it. I did not need to do this with the glass that I was using because that was already conditioned, it was already in use. But remember, whenever adding new media, you always need to perform backwash and a rinse to set the filter up. and you probably want to run this for just about a minute the first time. Once that's done, move it into the rinse position. So I have a free fly. Oops, didn't get him. Then you move it into the rinse position, and what this does is this will settle this sand in the tank and get it ready to receive the incoming wastewater. After about 30 seconds or so, a minute if you want, you can go ahead and turn it off. And remember, always have the motor turned off when changing valve positions. You can then now move it back to the filter position, and it's ready to go. Now, one of the issues I had was I needed to transfer the filter media from the old tank to the new tank. Now, this is not normally a problem. If you're just setting this up for the first time, you'd simply be pouring it in from bags. But what I did was I went ahead and got a shop vac. It's a little 1 gallon shop vac. And I figured out that we can just simply vacuum this out. And then you can just transfer it on over from the container in the shop vac. Pretty cool, huh? Now, when you're doing this, whether you're transferring it from the bag or if you're transferring your media over from another filter, you want to make sure that you're filling it evenly. In my case, it's not such a big deal because I'm going at such a slow pace. But if you're pouring from bags, you want to make sure that you pour it very gently so that it doesn't disturb the bottom portion of this unit, so everything stays straight. That's the key here. Alright, so we'll get this filled up, and then after that we'll continue on to the next phase. Once I had enough out of there where I could lift it, I simply put it right on top of the other one and banged on it till I got the rest of it out. And the last little bit can be obtained simply by putting a little water in there and dumping it over. Now again, normally all you'd have to do is just pour the stuff in, so for the rest of it, we're just going to get it out of the bag. You should also be filling it with a garden hose and spreading it around evenly as you're filling it up. I forgot to mention that, but I've actually been doing it. Now you want to make sure there's any little bit that's left on there. Any little bit that's left on there, you can just take a garden hose and work it off, but you want to make sure there's none on there. And at this point, we can actually remove this, and now the pipe will stay in place. Now we're close to done. The last step is to put the valve on. And what you want to do for the valve is you want to position it. Again, this may vary, but in most cases you're going to want the backwash to come straight out. So be very sure when you put this on. First of all, it goes right on like that. So there's a little bit of tape there. We'll get rid of that. And while we're at it, we'll get rid of this plastic. Now the PSI gauge will normally stay right around in the green to yellow range during normal operation. And what's important is that you make a note of this when everything is clean as to where the pressure is, and then you'll be able to see the difference as the pressure rises when it's time to backwash. We'll cover more on that later. So right now we're going to seat this in just like that. And for me, easiest thing to do is just line it up, make sure that's tight too while we're at it, and line this up with the drain line on the bottom. You don't have to, but just for aesthetics. And this is your backwash cap right there. Next step, we're going to secure it. May have to loosen the screws and finagle it a bit to get it where you want it to be. And in some cases you could take it apart, but usually if you back it up enough, you should be able to get this right on. And there's two little plastic indentations here, and that's what you need to line it up to. Just like that. That screw's already in, so we're going to go ahead and tighten it from this side. Actually lost the screw in the grass while I was bringing it over here, so that's another notation, don't lose the screws. And it's also getting ready to rain, so hopefully I can get this wrapped up quick, but there's not much left. In fact, it's raining now. How excellent for me. Once you've got that in there, you can put the rubber cap on. The other side already has it on there. And what you want to do is just evenly tighten both of these on. Strongly recommend using hand tools, not power tools. Once that gets snug, go over to the other side. Keep working on it. Again, you don't need to kill it, but it needs to be tight, and that's why hand tools are good. You don't want to break anything. And that's it. All that's left now is to hook it up. Alright, so at this point, I've already gone ahead, I've removed the tape from this rubber gasket here, make sure that's in there, and this rubber gasket here, make sure it's in there, and the last one that's right here. So once that's in, the only piece I need to use from the kit, I mean I could reuse the old hose, but might as well use the new one. So I'll just use the short interconnect, which goes in between the pump. And what you want to do is get it hand tight at first. The other side goes in here. They do not give you even an inch to spare on this one. Make sure it's not cross-threaded. These are actually really good connectors from Intex. There's no issues with them. You can use some paste, a little bit of Teflon paste to make it work better. And to tighten them on there, I've got one of these rubber wrenches. Now this is an old one by Master Grip. I've had this about 20 years. It's still going strong. I will try to find on Amazon an equivalent, because I think this is the best tool in the world to tighten these without any kind of damage, because you don't want to use pliers or any kind of metal tool on these because you'll scuff it all up. So the way this works is really simple. Right now we're tightening, so basically just wrap it around, loops in here, and this will allow you to get at that little bit of extra tightness on there that you can't grip with your hands, but at the same time it's not going to over tighten it. And that's good enough. Same thing with this one. You just want to make sure that you have it on right, which in that case this one's the opposite. Sometimes you mix it up, but this is a great tool. It's perfect for this application. It's also super handy when you need to get them off. So basically just like a rubber slip wrench. There we go, and that's nice and tight. Don't want to over tighten it because you can break something. And there we have that. And we're going to go ahead and put the other connections on. A little bit of Teflon from the last install. Oops, and I forgot some tape. So the way the tape comes off, kind of peel it away. But definitely leave that tape on there until the very end. Just a little bit on there. Alright. And what's super handy when you're setting your pool up, excuse the sweat, it's hot. When you're setting your pool up, you're going to want to install these, they're called plunge valves, and I'll provide a link at the bottom of this video. You definitely want to have these put on when you set your pool up, because that's what enables you to turn off the water and do any kind of servicing on it. So these are absolutely invaluable. Again, you get it hand tight, and then let the wrench do the hard part. And I can hear that thunder, so got to get this done, but we will get this done. Let's loop it around. Tighten that on there. Now there's only one more connection left, and in my case this is what's going to the saltwater generator, or chlorine generator from the saltwater. That goes onto the top here, and if you don't have one of these, then this would be the return to the pool. That's it. Hopefully there shouldn't be any leaks. If there are, I'll have to use a little Teflon paste. Alright. Last check you want to do before you get the water working. We've already checked this bottom. That's on there. Everything else is tight. I'm going to go ahead and tighten on the skimmer basket cover, or the pre-filter cover, whatever you call this thing. And you also want to open that valve up just a little bit, because right now we're going to open up the water and flood the system. I got one valve there, and look at that, it's leaking. So we did something wrong. Okay, so the reason we had a leak is because there's an O-ring that's supposed to come with this, and there was not one with it. So big goof on Intex. I've never had that experience I didn't see it in the box anywhere. I didn't find it. I might find it later. But we're going to go ahead and just put the O-ring that I have a spare from the old pump. The O-ring should go right around here. And there we go. Now you're going to get a nice tight seal. Sorry guys, it's been a long day. I'm going to get that on there. Never force anything. You just want to make sure that it's tight, but if something doesn't feel right, then just back off and check it. You might be cross-threading. Alright, that's much better. I can tell it's fit properly. So we're going to go ahead and open up the valve. And it's leaking out at the top. That's okay. And I went ahead and opened up the valve that's on the pool side. So once this is full of water, you can turn that off. And that should be the end of the leaking. And I'll go get some power to this. Alright, we have a little red light, and it's just like the one on the saltwater generator. So at this point, I've never used this before, but I'll just take a guess here. Let's see, we turn it on, and as I figured, here's where you cycle how many hours you want this thing to run. So I'm just going to go ahead and set it for 10. I've got the salt set for 12, so then you just, once you have the number punched in, that's it. Now we're running. I can hear the fountain, and we're all set. At the same time, I'm going to go ahead and turn the saltwater generator on. Alright, one important thing I forgot to mention is make sure that this valve is in the filter position when you start it up. It was here on this, some kind of neutral. So whatever, we put it back on filter, start it up, and that's the end of it, no leaking. And there you have it, the new 2019 Intex 3,000 gallon per hour sand filter pump. Everything's running normally, and now finally their filter pump matches their salt generator. So if you want to have a system like this, the filter pump assembly is $180 from Amazon. I'll provide the links for my Amazon store below so you get the best deal. And the saltwater generator, that is $140. So basically this system right here takes care of all your issues, and you don't have to worry about a dirty pool ever again or wasting a bunch of money on chemicals. And it's very reliable, no issues. Like I said, the only reason I replaced mine, well, not this one, but the one on the fish pond, is because I forgot to winterize it, which means you have to drain all the water out of this for winter so it doesn't freeze. So that's totally my fault. But otherwise, the pump motor that was on the pool is running the fish pond just fine. Well, here it is a few days later. The system is running perfectly, no issues whatsoever. The timer, everything works as expected. The pool is crystal clear, and no problems. Where I was actually filling the sand was on the fish pond. So this is actually what the old system looks like. So that's your example of what the 2018 setup is versus 2019 with the big mechanical timer box on it. And that's actually the pump from the pool that was donated, as well as the filter. The sand that I was showing filling was actually this filter, since I transferred the glass media. I've also gone ahead and added a nice little mushroom fountain. It does have other fountain options, but the mushroom is what I settled on. It's a nice 700 gallon per hour flow, and it works great. So if any of these products are appealing to you, or if you found this video helpful, please use the Amazon affiliate links below. and help my channel out. You'll be getting the best price on it, and you'll be getting it from the same sellers that I purchase from, and I never have any issues with those, so the links I post are always good. And another shot of the newer system.